Hi everyone, it's Elaine Hamilton from the Reiki Center. I'm responding to an interesting question that came up in our Reiki Reiju, and it was around transmission. So the idea of, well, really a question on what that was. And it comes up in terms of how we are healing, what we're doing, how we're showing up, and this idea of transmission as a form of healing. And also as a form of spiritual practice. So the most common way you'll probably hear it used is when spiritual teachers talk about transmission as you sit with a spiritual teacher and they kind of transmit knowledge. So this is particularly around the Buddhist scriptures, they'll talk about this, or the information around it. But then also some healers are also starting to talk about how transmission is an important next step in terms of healing and the way that the world is going towards healing. And it was just interesting because it's been something that I've been talking about a little bit more myself. And so I just felt that this was an interesting intersection and an interesting question to come up at this particular time when I'm also starting to explore more how we show up in the world and what we are giving off in an energetic frequency. So my understanding of transmission and how it's different from normal Reiki healing is that it happens with the whole body. So whereas when you are giving someone Reiki or you're showing up in a place whereby you've got somebody who is a bit uncomfortable or is stressed or maybe has got depression or something like this, normally in the kind of old style, if you like, we would offer them a Reiki treatment. And in doing so, we would channel Reiki through our hands into the person. So it's an individual experience of me giving you Reiki. Transmission is the method of, it's not even a method, it's a being wave or a beingness whereby simply you being in the room and radiating at a certain frequency allows the person to undergo healing without you having to touch them. And this is something that I am starting to talk more about because I feel that the way of the world this year, it's kind of where we want to be heading in terms of taking care of our own energy levels, specifically with the side effect of being able to do this kind of healing wherever we go. So if you imagine, it's kind of like us having to really step up into our authentic energetic power. And what I mean by that is it's no longer, to be honest, it hasn't been okay, but we've kind of been bumbling along with this. I think it's almost like the next evolutionary step in terms of when we become healers, practitioners of Reiki, when we become counselors, when we become helpers of any way, therapeutically, then we would, in the past, be given a bunch of tools and techniques and things to do and questions to ask and all that kind of thing. Now, anybody that uses ChatGPT knows full well that the tools and techniques, for example, in coaching and therapy and all this stuff is now the domain of ChatGPT. AI has got this. They give you questions, they respond to your answers in much more neutral ways. They don't trigger like a normal therapist, and they don't have agenda. So if anything, these kind of coaching questions that ChatGPT and other AI sources are now starting to give to you when you ask certain questions has taken away the toolbox, or is going to take away the toolbox of many of our therapeutic modalities, essentially. Like we're going to become obsolete. However, the transmission is something that no technology can do. And that is because it is an energy transmission. So if you and this is just, you can experience and experiment with this yourself. This is part of the chat that we were having earlier in terms of when I am doing my Reiki and when I am full of Reiki, when I go into an environment, I positively impact that environment. Now, it's a very easy experiment for you to do. You can just go into any environment that you want. Like, for example, if you work in an office space, you can just experiment. If I'm just going in without doing my Reiki in the morning, or if I'm going in without really centering myself, and filling myself up with Reiki, how does that feel? How do people respond to me? What's the kind of interactions I have during the day versus intentionally doing your Reiki, filling yourself up and really being Reiki. So when we talk about transmission, we're talking about the transmission of your energy outwards. And it doesn't take a lot of reflection to realize that we are all transmitting all the time. When you meet somebody who is angry or anxious or depressed, you can pick that up in their energy. They are transmitting that information to you all the time. And the same can be said for somebody who is calm, who is peaceful, and who is full of joy. Now, there's a difference between the faking it and the masking that we all do. You know, it's like when they say, "How are you?" And you're like, "I'm fine." That is not what I'm talking about, because you are transmitting your truth and people will pick up on that dissonance. I'm sure you do that all the time when people say, "I'm fine, I'm absolutely fine." And you know that they are not. Like, you absolutely know this, and they know as well, but there's still, basically it means I don't want to talk about it. That is not transmission. So transmission is not the way that you want the world to see you. It's the way the world actually sees you, right? So oftentimes we'll get this kind of dissonance happening and you'll wonder why. Like, let's say, I wonder why people don't want to be with me, or I wonder why I can't attract clients, or I wonder why, I'm not attracting the kind of students I want, and all this kind of thing. And oftentimes it is the unconscious, what we're giving out. Like, do people resonate with what we're giving out? Do they want what we're giving out? And this is something that I think is becoming more and more important now that tools such as AI are taking away many of the tools that we might have relied on before. So if you're a coach or a counselor or someone like that who's not actually radiating health and well-being, you are going to start noticing that people are going to shift away from you and into the AI, the technology, all that kind of stuff, because they can get it all online, they can get it all free, and without your energetic vibration that they perhaps don't enjoy so much. So this idea of taking care of ourselves is becoming more and more important. And the reason for that is not only for our own well-being, because obviously we want to take care of ourselves and we want to enjoy a predominant frequency of energy that is more peaceful, is more calm, is more collected. But also, as we transmit this out, then this is what really people are going to start looking for more and more, that connection of the energy system. Now, if you really start to transmit in a way that is powerful, like authentic and steady, obviously we're always going to go up and down, right? There's going to be some days where you're transmitting more strongly than others. And this isn't to make this into a burdensome thing or a responsibility, an ego responsibility. I have to always be transmitting at this. No, it's about checking in frequently with what kind of vibration do I feel I'm giving out at the moment. And as you do your Reiki, as you do your healing, as you do the simple techniques that you use to bring yourself back into center, you do this and activate this more and more during the day. This will allow you to radiate out a much calmer and more steady frequency to those around you. Now, that can be incredibly healing. So rather than having to put your hands on people My feeling is that we're seeing a shift more and more to simply holding space. And when we talk about holding space, there can be a lot of confusion as to what this means. But in this context, when we're talking about transmission, it simply means holding the space of the predominant frequency that you would like to share with others, whether that's compassion, whether that's kindness, whether that's love, peace, joy, whatever that is holding that frequency very steady in your own system. And that's really kind of cool, right? That's all we have to do. We don't have to go and fix other people. We don't have to go and like heal other people. We don't have to do any of this stuff. We just take care of our own vibration and we allow that transmission to do the work, right? And again, you can just test this for yourself. Like when you are in need of healing yourself, when you are in need of rest and rejuvenation, would you rather be sitting in a room with somebody who is already vibrating at the level you want to reach, i.e. somebody peaceful, somebody calm, somebody who feels like they are radiating compassion? Would you rather be in the room with that person as you're trying to heal? Or would you rather be in the room with somebody who is anxious and angry and negative? Right? It's not rocket science. This is our daily experience of people anyway, when you think about it. And so all we're really saying here is let's do this more intentionally. Like, let's really start to work on what it is we're transmitting. What is it? So instead of using the words transmission, I'm using contribution a lot more today, at the moment, should I say, because that seems to be what is resonating with me more. I don't really know why, but my feeling is that transmission is a word that can sometimes, the ego can sometimes hook into, whereas contribution to me feels a lot more clear in terms of, what is the energy I'm contributing? Is it positive? Is it negative? Is my language positive? Is it negative? And again, I don't want to get into toxic positivity where people are shutting you down, because that also is a dissonance. When you are feeling low or in need of nourishment and someone comes in and goes, smile, it's not that bad. That is not what I'm talking about, because the energy underneath that is what you're reading. So you are right to feel put out and unsupported when someone comes in like that, because really what they're saying is, I can't stand you being depressed. Don't be depressed because it affects me. That's actually what they're saying when people say things like that to you, right? It's their own discomfort. Somebody who is radiating with peace and loving kindness can happily hold your depression and sadness within that, because they are radiating outwards. They're not taking your stuff in. They're self-generating it, right? So it's like a light bulb inside illuminates the space. The darkness does not encroach on the light, right? So when you are radiating at a transmittable frequency of peace, when you are feeling peaceful and somebody in your environment is not peaceful, that has nothing to do with you, right? If you are able to just hold steady and keep radiating peace or well-being or love or joy or whatever it is, then somebody else can then come into a kind of resonance with you, right? And if you need them to be peaceful in order for you to be peaceful, you're not transmitting, right? Because they're the ones transmitting and you're the one picking it up. So that kind of codependency is not what I'm talking about. And you having to fix your environment so that you can feel peaceful is not what I'm talking about. When people transmit or when they contribute, it's kind of like, what is it that their energy is naturally sitting at? So when that comes to you, your focus is on, what is my natural state of energy? And can I boost it? Can I enhance it? And the beautiful thing with Reiki is that it naturally brings us into a very deep state of peace and well-being, because that is essentially our true nature. Our true nature is well-being, is love, is kindness. We only start tipping over when we have certain triggers or we have things that are unresolved in our own system that then make us act out towards others, right? So when you are hurt, you hurt others, that kind of thing, right? Whatever is going on inside you is what you are projecting outwards. So a lot of the work, I think, that is we're being called to do as healers, as Reiki practitioners, as people interested in personal growth, is to come more and more into our authentic self, because you're starting to really see this projection of unhappiness, of anxiety, of depression that is spilling out into the world. And it's almost like the sensitivity of all the vibrations have really amped up. So we're really starting to see it very clearly. What is the actual state of the planet and all the little humans, what we're all contributing. And oftentimes when you look at it like that, you can think, oh my God, but there's billions of people contributing suffering. And so how do I, as one little person, contribute or transmit something that is more loving, is a higher vibration, is a kind of more comfortable frequency for other people to do healing? That's a very good question. Time will tell, right? But I do think, and I think a lot of other healers talking about this also agree, that there is an opportunity here for us to at least try, like keep shining your light, keep being that kind of brightness. And if nothing else, it will mean that your life and the life of those immediately around you, your loved ones and your friends and family members, at least they get to experience a more calm and natural environment when you yourself are more calm and content and in flow. So this idea of personal growth and contributing more to a global growth is becoming more and more and more clear, right? It's kind of like when we start acting out in the world, then there are very clear consequences that are starting to be very obvious. And so I think part of this calling of shifting from simply being a healer or knowing the tools or knowing the techniques or the questions to ask or being a counselor or whatever, I think there is definitely a call now that we have to shift more energetically. I mean, frankly, we have to, because the jobs are not going to be there anymore, right? So that's all starting to force us into more and more energetic connection with people. Now, that energetic connection is actually a more honest and authentic connection anyway. So it's an evolutionary growth, right? So rather than looking at all of this stuff that's happening as like, oh no, it's like getting worse and worse. On some levels, yes, but that kind of squishiness, that challenge that we go through is partly so that we can grow. And part of that growth is a demand, so an energetic demand that we get more honest and we start to become more authentic. Like, how are we radiating? What are we radiating? When people meet us, how are they feeling our energy? Not what's coming out your mouth, because that is becoming less and less relevant. What's relevant is, how are you feeling with them? How are they resonating with your energy? What is your transmission? What is your contribution, right? And I think that's at an energetic level. It's not so much with words. And obviously energetic also means action, right? Because energy moves. Energy is what gives us the movement and power to act. So it's your actions, your words to some extent, like, are they kind or unkind? Are they positive or negative? All these things matter. But then underlying that is that what is the emotional, energetic wave that people are feeling from me? And that's just something to consider in terms of transmission. And I think that that's something that's going to become more and more relevant in our conversations, particularly as healers and as helpers and as people who are using energy, right? This is going to become more and more part of the conversation, I think. So hopefully that just helps bring some food for thought. If you've been hearing this word around a lot, then that's my take on it anyway. Like, I'm sure other people who use the word will have other takes on it. For me personally, I'm looking more, or my focus is more in terms of space holding. So how am I contributing to the environments I'm in? Like, am I contributing in a positive or negative way? And it's as simple as that. And then just doing my best, right? Without beating myself up when I can't hold the space as I'd like to, of just every day, you just try it a bit differently, try it a bit better. And most importantly, doing your Reiki, because when you do your self-treatment, that is going to naturally bring you into your authentic space. Naturally, you don't have to do anything else. So if nothing else, just do your Reiki practice. And particularly before you go out into the world, just center yourself, just calm yourself before you go out. And just that in itself will be a beautiful contribution for the planet. That's all from me. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.